Hi, I'm Ryan and welcome back to my channel. Label reading and food packaging can be so confusing. Today I'm going to teach you how to successfully and easily read a nutrition label to help you be successful in your nutrition, wellness, and weight goals. Make sure you stick around to the end. I'll share one important tip to make sure that you use when you're grocery shopping. What I'm going to use today for an example is one of my favorite granolas. So this one right here, it is not by any means a health food. It is a packaged processed food, but I really like to put a little bit on my yogurt. The first most important thing to be aware of when you're at the grocery store looking at food packages, products, is to ignore everything else on that food package except for the boring black and white nutrition label and food ingredients on the back. Literally, there's so little regulation for things that can be said on the front of a package. Food companies, manufacturers will try to do and say anything on the front of the package to get you to buy the product. That's their number one goal. They want you to buy the product so that way they can make money from you. So they really use a lot of false marketing, a lot of really weird and confusing words. Ignore all of the colors, the pictures, the wording on the front of the package and flip that package around and look at that boring label and the ingredients. That's what matters. So ignore the rest of it. The next thing that I want you to do is look at the serving size in that package. So our food portions have gotten bigger over the years. So oftentimes we think a serving is bigger than what it should be. For example, this granola is very calorie dense. One serving in this package is a third of a cup, and there are 9 servings in this bag. I will tell you, if I didn't know that, I could sit down and eat half or even probably all of this bag in one sitting. So it's really important to stick to that one portion or that one serving size when we're consuming that food. The third thing that I want you to be aware of is underneath calories, you'll see the fat content. Now, fat is not bad. Fat gets a bad rap. We need fat to live. Healthy fat is very, very, very good for us. So I don't look at the total really, I more look at the breakdown of fat in that product. So underneath the fat, kind of offset from the total fat, you'll see saturated fat, and then you'll see sometimes unsaturated fat, and then trans fat. So what do those mean? Saturated fat are the unhealthier type that we want to limit or try to avoid as much as possible. The unsaturated fat is the healthy fat, so we want more unsaturated fat. The way that I remember that and don't get those two mixed up is unsaturated fats will unclog your arteries with fat. Saturated fat will saturate your arteries with fat. So that's how I differentiate those two. So look for more unsaturated fat, those foods that are higher in unsaturated fat. And then trans fat, now I can go into a whole video about trans fat and go off on a tangent about this. So we'll just nix that and keep it a little short as possible. Trans fat is evil. It is terrible, terrible, terrible. That should always say 0. You don't want any. We'll get into that more in a different video. Let me know if you want to learn more about trans fat. The next, what I want you to look at is right under carbohydrates is fiber. So fiber is super important. We want the proper amount of fiber in our nutrition and diet every day because it helps our body with so many things. It helps keep us regular for our bowel movements. It helps regulate blood sugar. It helps keeps us full. It helps decrease the risk of colorectal cancers. If we're buying packaged foods, we want that to be higher in fiber rather than like 0 or at 1 gram of fiber. Just a brief summary, just to explain this a little bit more. What is fiber? Fiber is literally what a plant food is made of. So it's what grows from the ground. It's that like bulky substance that our body has to try to digest and break down. So you will not find this if you're looking at foods that did not grow from the ground. So if you're looking at a label for chicken breasts, you're not going to find fiber in it because it didn't grow from the ground. So just know that this is one rule that can't apply to every nutrition label, but good when you're buying like breads, pastas, granola, cereals, snacks, things like that. You want to look at that fiber because that is important. So you want that fiber to be higher. And then right under carbohydrates, right under fiber, you also want to look at the sugar amount. And the cool thing is now is that manufacturers have to distinguish between how much sugar is in that product and then how much added sugar is in that product. Sugar is not a bad thing. Sugar is essentially from carbohydrates, like natural sugar, sugar from fruits. that is really healthy for our body. What we want to try to avoid is that added sugar. That really wreaks havoc on our health. So we want to eat and consume as little added sugar each day as possible. Now, it's pretty hard to avoid altogether because sugar is in so many processed foods. But when you're comparing labels or trying to pick out that healthier food at a grocery store, flip it over, look at that added sugar and see which one has the lowest added sugar, more fiber, and try to pick that option. And then the last thing that I want you to look at that label is protein. So especially when buying, again, those packaged processed foods, snacks, when we're in a pinch on the run, don't want to make something from scratch ourselves, we want foods to be higher in fiber overall. So for example, when I'm buying a granola, I want that protein to be higher to help build my muscles, to help keep me fuller for longer. So that's kind of the last important piece that I want you to look at. So if it's really high in sugar, and even if it isn't all added sugar, but no protein, that's not great either. So kind of having all those well-rounded, balanced nutrients. So overall, when we look at this label, again, there's 9 servings per container, which is just crazy to me. There is 6 total fat in this granola. 4 of those are saturated fat, which actually is quite high. I'm a little disappointed by that. So that means there's only 2 grams. It's not listed, but if we do the math, 6 minus 4 is 2 because there's no trans fat. So there's 2 grams of unsaturated fat, which is good, but 4 coming from saturated fats. And then under carbohydrates, if I look at the fiber, there's 2 grams of fiber. Ideally, I kind of want that higher. It's coming from oats. What else would have fiber in here? Oats, sunflower seeds, quinoa flakes, puffed amaranth, chia seeds. So that'll all have fiber. That all grew from the ground. So because it's only 19 carbohydrates, 2 fiber, I think that's actually decent. And then there is 7 grams of added sugar, which, don't scold me, is quite high actually. But remember, this is a treat. I don't eat this a lot, and that's why it's important to stick to 1 serving. Lastly, there is 3 grams of protein. Yeah, decent, because really it's a plant-based processed food, so not a ton of protein because it's more of a carbohydrate source being that granola. So that's label reading in a nutshell, a very brief, kind of hopefully simple overview on how to distinguish what foods we should pick off those grocery store shelves versus keeping on the shelves. One last tip that I have for you actually is that they try to keep things at eye level that are kind of those unhealthy foods. So things that they want to sell more often, they kind of keep at eye level, and the healthier foods are sometimes like way above or way below. Not always, but just keep that in mind when you're shopping. Good luck grocery shopping. Hopefully you make some healthy swaps and changes. That's going to be all for this video. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.